Hi, my name's Leighton Jen. I'm the Director of Development for the American Documentary and Animation Film Festival, or AmDocs to our friends. We've just released early invitations, and so I'm talking to my first filmmaker of the 2025 AmDocs, Jonathan Riles. He's completing the hat trick for us. This is his third straight year coming out to AmDocs and third consecutive, so no gaps. But he's coming in with a new movie. Is it Froggy?
So it's pronounced Froggy Style, and it's
Oh,
spelled in a really weird way, and I can get into that if you want, Leighton.
sure.
So,
Let's talk about this.
well, and I'd love to talk about this too because something that I've been researching over the past couple of years is titling in movies. How do we title things? And one of my mission statements when I make my work is to try to make the titles kind of weird, kind of going against the grain. Like I am like I work in marketing, but within my personal work, I try to go kind of the opposite way of marketing. Like, for instance, with IMDb, I had to submit this title three different times before it would actually accept the characters. So, um, one unconventional thing is it's Froggy Style, so it's like all capital letters. But
Hmm.
between the O, I tried to do something with gender where I did like the male symbol and the
Hmm.
female symbol. So there's like that kind of like sideways V, a dash, then the O, and then there's another dash and a plus to kind of show like female symbol, male symbol, because gender is actually a really big topic in this film. And it was also, I was just trying to be cheeky, like, how are people going to pronounce this? Like, I can always chime in and like, hey, this is how it is. But I think that's also like, I have a weird dream where I make a title and people don't know how to pronounce it and we just let it exist as it is. So that's a weird kind of tangent, but it is Froggy Style is the film. It's about 5.5 minutes. So
It sounds like a movie that could be the love life of Kermit the Frog.
yes. Well, and that's another thing too. When I put out my announcement, I was when I was on Instagram, I like to, put a song with my like little like announcement stuff. I was this close to putting like a 1980s Kermit the Frog song that I found like within their little music library. And I found one song I liked better, but it's like I feel like Kermit will make an appearance when I
Oh,
do my social media stuff. But
you know,
yeah.
you you talking about the title, it almost sounds like the obvious choice would be Rainbow Connection.
Yes, that's a great idea because it's a queer film. Rainbow. Oh, now you're giving me ideas. Yeah,
All right. This is
yeah.
going to be awesome, Jonathan. This started as a documentary film festival, and that we started adding animation. So documentary is still kind of like the primary part of the largest films. But animation, we have some really creative people. Can you talk about in the years you've been at AmDocs, the kind of people you've been able to meet and bounce ideas with? Because there's a couple great animators that I know, and I know you know too. Can you talk about networking and just sharing ideas with the other animators you've met at AmDocs over the years?
Yeah, one of the things I love about AmDocs, and this is really what another like small mission of mine is like I really value the aspects of animation that are not as prevalent in I would say like the mainstream. Like um this year in particular gets me really excited, for instance, for the Oscars because like we've got like the Wild Robot in contention and Memoir of a Snail, which is a stop motion animation, and things like Flow. Like not all of these films are 3D Disney Pixar, and I over the years I've seen a lot at AmDocs in particular. I've seen a lot of amazing 2D animations. The first year that I was there, there was this fantastic short film called Blueberry, and it
Hmm.
was like this child like trying to eat this blueberry, and I've connected with the director since then. But another one like last year was like The Mayfly, was this phenomenal 2D animation, and just the star power behind that one was amazing. And really like I love that Amdocs celebrates alternative, and it's not even alternative, it's you know hand drawn stop motion. It really celebrates this idea that you don't have to go corporate to make good art. And that's where I've noticed like in the past couple of years that I've been there, like Amdocs truly celebrates the more maybe glossed over or not as in the media kind of animation. I really, really value that. And when I see your program, I'm like, I feel like you guys absolutely value that.
I mean, we got to give Teddy credit. He's our founder, our director. He does all the programming, and his taste curating the festival is impeccable. So we're very lucky that to I'm very lucky to work with Teddy, and I'm very lucky to be a part of what he creates. Is there a what would you say is constant with the three films that you've had here at AmDocs? Can you remind me of the titles of all the other two?
Sure, yeah. So the first time I was at the festival in 2023, I showed a very short 3.5 minute film called Metamorphosis. So it was this kind of, and I think the hybridization of 2D graphics and stop motion is the constant with all three films, but it was a film in that nature that told a story of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, but the
Hmm.
caterpillar was made of Google eyes. So it was the kind of this stop motion. It was all like, top down, like on a table with my DSLR facing downwards. So it kind of had this like almost 2D plane with 3D objects. But I like to talk about that film with the idea of like the constant within the change, where like every stage had some aspect of the Google eyes, where the more we change, the more we stay the same. And it was a little bit more abstract and less queer than the next two films. But last year, I showed this film called Pride in Our Steps, which
Hmm.
was even shorter. It wasn't even 2 minutes long, and it was the first film in the LGBTQ QI plus block where it was a poetic animation where I had actually written this poem in grad school because I went to the Columbus College of Art and Design, and it was a reaction to some of the things that I was seeing in the world. And I brought in a lot of my friends to kind of like one by one, they read one line and they read another line. But it was really about the idea of like existence and, um, how we navigate things being queer in the 21st century. And there were some specific motifs that I put in there with the unfortunate like Colorado shooting and things that were pretty horrific. But it was also supposed to be a short film that celebrated still being here because that is a big, big thing in the LGBTQIA plus community of um, supporting those who have survived.
Hmm.
So pride in our steps, we march today because we're here and we march for people in the past that may or may not be. And so
Hmm.
that kind of took a turn to more of a more advocacy piece, a little bit
Hmm.
more potentially like more in your face, a little bit more dramatic, specific. And with this year, Froggy Style, it's another queer commentary, but it's a lot less serious and a lot more just zany and just crazy. And that's the shift that I wanted to do this year was I also work in the genre film festival circuit, so I go to a lot of like horror and genre festivals. And one of the things that I've noticed traveling is some of my favorite blocks have been like midnight films that just you get there at midnight and just like you see the craziest stuff you can imagine or you couldn't even imagine. And so this was my first true attempt to make something that I would envision would be just, played, maybe at like 1 or 2 a.m. It is a little bit more raunchy, and so I wanted to kind of embrace that, but truly like my paid actors are my puppets. So like
Oh.
this is the kind of thing I'm working with, not like real actors, voice actors, but like these are the things that I'm like, you know.
Oh. Whoa. Do we have to
So
blur that out when you put them together like that?
they're just high-fiving. They're just,
Oh, high fivey.
PG for now.
PG. Now you started taking, when we talked last year, you talked a little bit more advocacy. And obviously, with a lot of changes in this country, there's a lot more, sadly, more opportunity for advocacy. Can you talk about that moving forward? Because obviously things have changed, and I always miss the letters, but LGBTQ community, there's some fear, trepidation with this next phase in our country. Can you talk about why you think art and the art you produce moving forward will be important in the coming years?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of fear. I'll be fully transparent about that. I have a lot of friends that I'm worried about. But this is not the first time in the world that there's been, mass tragedy. And what I go back to as an art historian is I look at the movements and I try to draw from them a little bit. I do a lot. I look at post-World War surrealism as something that I really look at because I do believe that there is still wiggle room to not be censored, but you have to be careful. And so that's something that I really look at with surrealism is it's totally like a reaction to tragedy. The old saying is nothing matters in the world because everything's falling apart. Therefore, art doesn't matter. Therefore, we're going to create something that makes no sense. And so I like to take that and kind of code it a little bit where um, even though this is more of a funny, you know, mixed media animation Froggy style, the true commentary that I really wanted to tap into is this idea that, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but there are certain situations in certain areas of the world, certain households perhaps, that it's like, oh, people are so devastated. Oh, my child turned out queer. And I wanted to take a more dark comedy approach to it. It's like the act of procreating as straight people has the potential to create queer people. Where, and it's, it goes into other aspects of like the world is overpopulated and things like that. But taking that idea and abstracting it a little bit so it might not come across as this like over exaggerated, like this is exactly what it is. Like people can have interpretations. And truly, like I was looking at symbols in the queer community, like, everybody talks about like the bisexual frog, the rainbow frog. And I'm like, oh, what if I took that as a character? And like the funny thing is, like, you can kind of interpret like these two characters right here.
Mhm,
Some people are going to look at them as the villains, and if you watch the film, you might be able to see why.
mhm,
Um, but that's the commentary where I think my approach has always been: don't hit it over the, don't take the hammer, hit it
mhm,
so hard, make the hammer something else, to where some people will be like, oh, that's what that is. And
mhm,
sometimes that's a little bit more powerful. But
mhm.
again, like I value the idea of like surrealism can make things something they're not, and then taking your specific idea and injecting it in.
Yeah.
That's been my approach for a while.
Yeah,
So,
always believe in connecting, and I think sometimes when you stray too far one side or the other side, you lose out to the audience maybe you want to reach and have a message for. So I kind of look at it that way: is connection. You need to connect, and you need to not. Some people think censorship. I don't think censorship. I think you need to connect with as many people to get certainly very important messages out there. And so, over the history of art, you see a lot of popular art that had an impact, and when you watch it, it's entertaining too. So, I applaud you for what you're doing with Froggy Style. Let's talk about AmDocs. Third time. Can you share your
yeah, can
experiences?
I show my merch?
Yeah, let's do that. We need to. Oh,
Oh,
you need to
there
step
we
back a
go.
little. There we go. There we go.
Yeah. I'm wearing my shirt. So this is your 14th year?
This is the festival's 14th year. This is my
Got
third
it.
year. I think I started the same time you did.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't
Yeah,
make that connection till now.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, what are you looking forward to, and what advice would you give to our first time festival filmmakers attending the festival?
Oh, trust the process. The process is already done. Just go with the flow. Um, Actually, I think I would say get a lot of sleep before you go, because there's a lot of, and that's the thing, is you talk about connections, you talk about networking. A lot of that stuff happens outside of the theater. The theater is to show your work, to engage with the audience. It's a wonderful moment. But AmDocs offers a lot of really fun activities, a lot of really amazing networking, I don't want to say like party events, but like
Mhm,
usually there are nights where we go out and we socialize, and you might run into a filmmaker that has something playing tomorrow that you can write down and be there for them, and then they can be there for you. But I would say be well rested and take the time that you are there to be present, because I said this in my last interview, but the first time I went to AmDocs, I was so blown away by the connections, the content, everything there. that I made it like my mission. Like I'm gonna come back as soon as I can. If I have the work to show, I want to be there again and again and again. I am not kidding you. When I left last year, I was storyboarding Froggy Style on the plane
Wow.
because it was an old idea that I'd had for years, and I'm like, maybe, just maybe, it motivates you. You go to these events, you meet people, and you feel motivated to make more. And
Mm.
that's something that I feel is really, really powerful about AmDocs. But be well rested, be present, and especially with documentary too, um, be ready to hear the very intense things about the world. Like sometimes you go to these like long documentary blocks and you're like, oh God, I didn't know that was happening. I need to look into this. And it's not that it's off-putting, but like that's the purpose of documentary, is to inform, to let people know that there might be something in the world that they need to research more about, or maybe this will adjust their lifestyle just by a hair. And that's another thing, especially with the documentary festival, is be ready to have some big ideas thrown in your face and to contemplate them and to, you know, we're all just one person at a time, but if we all change individually, it does create a bigger change as well. So that's my advice.
Wow, that's beautifully put. Thank you very much for saying that. Is there now? Let's get back to Froggy Style. You mentioned you're on the plane leaving here. That's when you start storyboarding it. Specifically, was there someone specifically you met or talked with that kind of got you to revisit this old idea of yours and to try to get it ready for this year, or is it was just a whole general experience?
Well, I think another thing about AmDocs that I've discovered is they, and I mentioned this earlier, like 2D stop motion. There is this niche that AmDocs programs that's kind of mixed media, like really kind of art films. I remember that there was like this really, really nice, and I believe this was the first time I was there in 2023, and it's escaping my mind, but it was like this, I believe like a 20 or 30 minute like time lapse kind of like interesting like animation film, but it was really meant for a gallery and it was showing at the festival. And I'm like, oh, maybe because as a stop motion animator, it's all about photography, keeping things in focus, and editing. And I was like, maybe I can really try to do something really, really different. Froggy Style was completely and totally shot on my iPhone.
Oh,
It's
wow.
actually a vertical film. And that's another thing when we talk about like the people I've met at Amdocs, Hamlet Rubio, who's the director of the Tijuana Vertical Film Festival in Tijuana, Mexico. Um, I met him in 2023, and then I started working with his vertical collective, vertical filmmaker. And that's basically just the idea that you take the 16 by 9 HD ratio and you flip it. So most of the frame, this is kind of blank, this is kind of
Hmm.
blank, and this is where the action happens, right?
Hmm.
And so I started working more in vertical video after I met him, after I attended his festival. And the idea of Froggy Style being a vertical film really stood out to me because it's like, oh, it's breaking the binary system
Hmm.
where it's not just one screen. It's, maybe you could do male here, female here, and everything else in between is happening here, where it's this idea that there is a purposeful breaking of the binary in the middle.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I really hadn't done something like that where the actual aspect ratio was informed by the content. And meeting Hamlet, I think, was a big thing for me too. It's like, what are the potentials of the vertical, um, the 9 by 16 aspect ratio? And as some of us might know with TikTok, like the way to do it really quickly is with an iPhone, doing it like this, and then your videos kind of show up like a rectangle like that. But showing it cinematically with intention was something that I really like. I don't think Froggy Style would have been what it was if not for those things I discovered at AmDocs. So
Well, I love how going against convention really challenged and inspired you to create something beautiful. I mean, it's really it sounds really amazing. Um, so we're going to take care of a little business. If you could help us, one of the things that we have at AmDocs is the homestay program, and I know you've used the homestay program. Can you talk about it and your experiences with homestay at our festival?
The homestay program is the greatest thing ever. It's so helpful. And that's the thing, like, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Like, I am from Appalachia, Ohio. I visit California when I can, but the homestay program is a really, really amazing thing. And if you've never been to Palm Springs, if you're, going to the festival for the first time, something that you're going to notice really quickly is Palm Springs is built on volunteers. It is totally a place that, like, the volunteers there understand the culture and they want to make sure that you have a wonderful experience. Both of the homestay hosts that I've been with before have been extremely generous, even like these little things of, oh, have you looked at this hiking trail that's, a mile down the road? Like, I know that you're leaving tomorrow, but like maybe you want to try to like I maybe you'll try that, or this is a nice restaurant nearby. Like, even with all those different things, they're so helpful. But to get into the actual, like, what is the homestay program? Essentially, if you are accepted to AmDocs, there is this offer that you can get, which is, would you like to stay with a host? And essentially, they are volunteers affiliated with the festival, and they house you. They cook you meals. They take you sometimes to and from different events. We also have a really you guys have a really good shuttle system, shuttling people back and forth. But essentially, if you are prepared to be there, they will help you. And it makes it super, super affordable as well. Like, all I really have to do is just book my plane ticket and then I'm there, because the homestay program is so generous. And I haven't really seen a team that's that dedicated to it for the festivals I've been to. It's been a standout, and I've always talked about it, but the homestay program is phenomenal. Great people, generous people, and it allows you to be more present, to absorb more of the wonderful art that you'll see there.
And last year, one of our homestays hosts helped a couple get married.
Yes, that's right. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah,
it's
we had a
like
wedding.
that's they go to the next level every time, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's been an amazing program. We have a lot of amazing volunteers, and our drivers are fantastic. We're so lucky to have this kind of team that allows us to make this festival stand out and grow. And we're just looking forward to it. The last thing, let's point out that you are also instructor or professor over at the Ohio State. When you work with these students, what kind of things are you seeing now that's kind of inspiring you? Because obviously, with a lot of students, they have different kind of views, and then sometimes that becomes inspiration. So, what kind of things are you seeing in the classroom that inspires you and gives you hope?
That's a great question. Um, I think right now for me, it's trust, trusting students to do what they want to do. Because one of the things that I've worked into my lectures for their final projects is kind of a hands-off approach of, like, okay, I've gone over some tutorials, we've learned some software, we've done some projects, but I really treat a lot of the final projects as a hands-off kind of like trust moment where I'm like, this is kind of on you. You have a month to do this for our class exhibition, and we're going to have some one-on-one meetings. But then, even the time management aspect of that, I'm like, you have to decide, like, are you working on the weekends? Do you do it every night? Do you just do it in the morning? Like, I really try to put trust in my students and let them not only choose what their schedule is for working, but, for example, one of the previous courses I've taught was called digital imaging, and it really culminates to like a 2D print on a wall at the end of the class. So they print out their stuff, which they have to go through the print lab to do that, or they go to Walgreens or however they want to print out their work. But part of it is finishing your work, facilitating the fabrication, the printing, installing it yourself, giving it a title. And to a student who's never done that before, it might be like, oh, there's 5 extra steps I didn't know about. That's part of the project. But even this last semester, I had a couple of students working with glass.
Oh,
And I took a step back and I'm like, they wanted that's actually part of their studio making, and they were bringing in digital printmaking to stuff like that, and I was just like, it doesn't serve you for me to tell you you can't do that. So I'm like, you know what? We're gonna have a glass piece with some digital media on top of it in this exhibition because that's what you really want to make. And so that's something that I'm really, really valuing, moving forward is I have a really hard time telling students no nowadays. So that's
I think
that's where my
that's
headspace is.
yeah, I think
As
that's a
long as
great
it's appropriate,
right.
yeah.
I think that's great. I think you need to give people freedom to express themselves, and there's a lot more ideas and opinions when we open ourselves up and walk away from censorship. So
Hmm.
I think that's amazing what you do, Jonathan. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. You've been one of the
You
great
as well,
advocates.
Leighton.
Yeah, and you've always been one of the great advocates for our festival, and we enjoy having you. And you bring a great spirit. You capture the spirit, and you share that spirit with all our other filmmakers, and it keeps that culture uh, warm and inspiring and nurturing for everyone. So I always appreciate having there. Looking forward to catching up with you in person,
Oh yeah.
and we're looking forward to the
We
new.
need a goatee selfie
Oh,
together.
that's right. Yeah, we got our. We're gonna start a band, Baby's Easy Top or something.
Yeah.
But again, a reminder for everyone: the American Documentary and Animation Film Festival (AmDocs) will be March 27th through 31st at the Palm Springs Cultural Center. Coming out, we have passes available right now, and there's a lot of great programs. And Jonathan's going to be part of another great uh, program, and just looking forward to seeing everyone there. It's going to be a great festival. Jonathan, again, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in Palm Springs.
All right. See you then.
All right, thanks.